Hi, good morning, everybody. Today we are talking about the top 5% problem and what it means for us today as sellers, as sales organizations, as AEs and leaders to be in this crazy AI world and still have to perform and quite frankly and honestly have to prove our relevancy and prove that we are relevant and that we can stay relevant um, and keep our jobs, up level our skills, and make ourselves more valuable. And believe it or not, it is very, very possible to do all of those things. But the first thing we need to do is recognize the era that we're in and that it does pose a risk to us. It poses a risk to our livelihoods, us providing for our families, our paycheck, quite frankly, so our income, and just our overall well being. So once we recognize AI, once we recognize that we're in the AI era and that things have changed substantially, then we can do something about it. So this is what I wanted to come in and have this discussion about. Um, who is this for? Again, before we get started, my name is Leah. I am a coach to top 5 to 10% AEs and a sales advisor to sales leaders, and I help you think better, strategize better, close more deals faster with a higher average sales price, get your revenue up, and hit your quota. So that's me. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. So, who is this for? This live is for sellers who refuse to be replaced. So, if you recognize the AI era that we're in, if you recognize the environment that we're in right now, this is for you. If you want to be irreplaceable and be a seller that your organization fights to keep, you're in the right place. If you're aiming for the top 5 to 10% of sellers in the world, you're in the right place. That's who I normally talk to. That's who I talk about is the top 10% of sellers and sales organizations. Sellers that want leverage with AI, not competing against it. So again, we're not competing against AI because that's kind of impossible, but we are using AI as leverage to up-level our thinking, up-level our skills, and our value to both our organizations, our buyers, and first and foremost, ourselves. And if you're a sales leader and you want to build a non replaceable sales team, so like you're tired of seeing all the cuts that are happening, seeing workforces being reduced, being asked to do more with less, right? Our jobs is to help make our sellers more valuable, help them with their skill set and coach them to be better. And you're tired of doing more with less people, then this is for you. If you want to build a non replaceable sales team, you're in the right place. Okay, so what are you going to walk away with? By the end of the slide, we're here about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. By the end, you're going to know where AI is replacing sellers and where it isn't. Why being just good right now is a liability. The skill that the top 5 to 10% sellers that I see doubling down on and what I help build the skill level with and how I help them overcome these hurdles and how elite sellers are using AI without becoming replaceable themselves. That there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. And that's what you're going to learn today. And you're going to learn some of the strategies around that. What is this not? This is not AI tools porn. So, like, I'm not an AI tool expert. I know how to use AI to up level the sales motion and how to use AI to increase skill and increase value. But I'm not a tool guru. So that's not what you're going to get here. I'm not going to be giving you some prompts, but I'm going to give you basic prompts that'll help you. No automation hacks because, frankly, I dislike automation in the way it's being used today. This is not sell more faster, although this is going to help you shrink down your sales cycle so you will sell more, but we're going to add value at the same time. So this is about helping you up-level your skills and your thinking and your judgment, which is that is your differentiator as a human being, is being able to connect with other humans and being able to think and being able to influence decisions. How your judgment and your thinking is going to beat all the automation out there and how to stay indispensable. So, along those lines, I know you guys have all probably gotten emails, from AI. Maybe I talked to some of you, you've gotten phone calls, like literal cold calls from AI, which is kind of illegal, but that's another story. And a lot of there is no shortage of AI slop that's out there, right? I was reading a post by someone the other day, and she was saying how she was clicked on the video and she knew immediately that it was AI, and it just turned her off completely. And she just clicked, and there's this thinking in sales with human beings that we need to connect with other humans, and we totally dislike all the AI automation, all this stuff that's happening, and the trust is reduced as a result of all of this garbage that's coming to us. So I know you've seen it, I've seen it en masse, and we're going to help you avoid that. Okay, so why does this matter right now? Right? This is not a future problem. This is a problem that's happening right now. So AI has completely commoditized good selling or transactional selling. Buyers are more informed, they're more sophisticated. They can find out things about your organization, about your product, your tool, your pricing structure, all of these things. All they have to do is really look on your website, pull stuff down, throw it in AI, and ask it to give it a synopsis, right? So buyers are a little bit more sophisticated. They have access to more information. And that means, as a result of that, the sellers that are doing this, which is the bottom 80, 85, 90%, is collapsing. So the middle of the sales roles are collapsing, and the gap between who's an elite seller and who is just average or good is becoming wider, and it's becoming more and more obvious. So I'm going to stop the presentation at this point. We'll come back to it. But I want to read a couple of things with regards to what we just talked about, the environment that we're in. And it will just give you some proof, and it's really going to hammer home the fact that transactional selling and AI is here to stay, and it is substantially changing the way we sell. It's changing our roles, and it's impacting every organization that we may work for or buy from. It is very prolific. So let me just read you a couple of things. I talked about last week about how Walmart is having a hiring freeze. So they're freezing hiring for 3 years. They're saying that they're not going to reduce their headcount. I think we all know what the deal is with that, right? We know the headcount is going to go down. They're not just freezing hiring for 3 years to evaluate AI, and they're not going to do anything, right? We can read between the lines. At least I hope so. Walmart is the biggest retailer in the world, and they are evaluating AI for their operations and probably their salespeople. And also, I saw a post the other day. I took a screenshot, so I will credit the author a little later, like underneath this slide. But anyways, Pinterest is cutting jobs and reallocating resources to AI. Autodesk is also cutting jobs and reallocating resources to AI. Meta is doing the same thing. Like, they've been doing the same thing for the last couple of years, and now it's accelerating. So we can see how AI is impacting our roles, how AI is impacting our roles, and our roles are being compressed and they're being changed fundamentally. And we need to be able to recognize that and act upon that and not be afraid of it, right? Even though, some of the skills that we were taught and that are being reinforced are less relevant than ever, like all the transactional stuff, the research, activities, email, all these things that we think or we thought were that we were using to bring value and that were being reinforced by leadership, by other people, are no longer as relevant as they once were, and they just are not as valuable as they were. So that's a big part of it. We need to recognize the era that we're in, and we need to act upon that. So let me go back to the presentation. Okay, so we talked about Walmart, Pinterest, Autodesk, and Meta. These are some of the organizations, really big organizations, that are now using AI to cut costs and increase their profitability. And again, I hate that this is happening, but it is happening, and we just have to get to grips with it. We just have to come to grips with it, and we have to do something to recognize it and to adjust our skills and adjust the way that we're approaching our work in the market. It just is what it is at this point, and we have to work with it. Okay. So I want you to think about, because we're in football season, right? And we just found out who is in the Super Bowl. And I want you to think of the era that we are in now, the market, the economic environment, the uncertainty, all these changes that are happening. I want you to think of this as a football game, okay? And the last two games, the two divisional championships were very, very close, right? If you watch the game, they were really close. This is an American football field for my international friends that don't know what this is. So those were very, very close games. So I want you to think of this as a football game, and think of it as being like right now with AI and all these changes, think of it as being we're in the fourth quarter and we have about 8 minutes left. So we still got some time, but just like the games that happened last weekend, right? They were very close. The decisions that those teams and the leadership of those teams and the players made on the field in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes left determine the outcome of the game. So those critical decisions, recognizing the plays, taking some risks, up-leveling their thinking, maybe having some misjudgment or some good judgment, depending on what side you're on, made a difference of whether they were going to lose or win the game and go to the championship. I want you to think about that analogy. We are in the fourth quarter of the game, and we have about 8 minutes left, and we have an opportunity to make decisions and take actions that are going to either help us lose the game or win the game. So what decisions and actions are you going to commit to today to recognize that what we've been doing is probably much less relevant than we think it is? And things are changing so rapidly, like you guys have no idea what's coming. And only because I've talked to a bunch of CEOs and different people, and they've told me what they're planning with their with the tools and with the things that they sell. And it is rapidly going to change the environment and a lot of the tools that we've been working with, right? CRMs is one example. So I want you to think of it as we're in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl game. We have 8 minutes left. What decisions are we going to make? Okay. So where is AI really making an impact? They no longer really need us to do demos, right? Because they can get a recorded demo or presentation anywhere. And if you're in manufacturing, your buyers can find out what you sell, and they can figure out how it works, if it may or may not work for them, what the pricing possibly could be, and all of these things. So AI is replacing a lot of the things that have been commoditized, like information is no longer an asset. It's no longer an edge. It's no longer the thing that brings values. First call qualification, it can help with that. Feature explanations, pricing comparisons, follow-up status update, all these things that we think bring value to our organizations that we were doing are no longer doing the same thing or bringing value in the same way. Not that we're not doing them, but they just don't have the same value add that they once did. And that is not where our value is as sellers. And if you're a leader, that's not what you should be coaching your sellers on, because this is much less valuable than the other things like thinking, judgment, and so forth. Okay. So what you want to do if you're a seller, after every discovery call you have, after every cold call, after every interaction with your buyer, you want to ask yourself, what did I add that AI could not? I want you to really let that sink in and reflect on that after every single call. And if you can't answer that, or if the answer is not a whole lot, then that's a problem. And you need to figure out where you can add more value above and beyond the transactional things. Okay, so here's a very, this is a very, very touchy subject because for me, I am a big proponent of like, I will act first and ask for permission later. And that is because 9 times out of 10, when I follow my intuition about things, I end up being on the right side, right? And it's when I go against my intuition and do other things that I end up on the wrong side. I end up messing up. So this may be counterintuitive to a lot of you because here's the deal. In school, we're taught to follow directions, follow the playbook to the letter, raise your hand, ask for permission, do all these things, and frankly, toe the line. But unfortunately, a lot of that we have been taught does not add value in this era that we're in this economic environment with AI dominating everything, right? So why do good sellers get cut first? Like you're following all the rules. You may be making. If you are a good seller, you're following the process, you have hit all your activity metrics, right? So you have a number of calls, discovery calls, and so forth. You're hitting those metrics. You're delivering good, clean demos. You're not rocking the boat. You're towing the line. You're doing everything. But the problem is, and this is the thing that they won't tell you, nobody is going to tell you this, right? But I will. In tighter markets, leadership doesn't need you to be safe. They need you to make impact, and your buyers need that. They need you to think differently and be someone that is going to, I hate to say this, but think outside of the box a little bit and do things a little outside of the norm and do things that are more advanced than what 95% of people are doing, of sellers. Okay. And I say this, let me just stop this really quick. I say this because I have had a couple of conversations with clients that I coach. One of the gentlemen that I coach, he is so smart. He's very smart. He has made President's Club time and time again, and he usually hits his quota. He's a great guy. He's amazingly awesome. He's so smart. He runs rings around me sometimes with some of this stuff. But the problem is that he has been forced into this transactional box by his organization, right? Because first of all, the onboarding was very poor, and they have some ICP and process misalignment. So as a result, they are forced into selling transactionally. And what does that mean? It means they are now doing these things that are no longer valuable for the organization or for the market in general. So they end up competing on features and competing on price. And that's what it comes down to. And when you're in that environment, you're forced into that box, then you are going to discount your face off as a result because you have nothing else to compete on, right? So I feel really bad for him, and we're rectifying that. We're doing some strategies or what have you. So I think that's going to help overcome that. But one other thing that he told me is that within the time that he's been with the organization, which has been about a year, there have been 2 or 3 different companies come into the market that are using AI that can do exactly what their product or service or solution does faster and much cheaper. So, in a race to the bottom, nobody wins. Everybody loses because you're discounting your face off. And, in a race to the bottom, you just end up competing on price, and then you can't win and your organization can't win. And what is the end result of that? So we're seeing, for lack of a better word, crap rolling downhill, right? You're competing on price, you're discounting, then you're not hitting your budget. Your sales leaders are not making forecasts accurate. The revenue is going down. And what's the downstream effect of all of that when all these things are going down? People get laid off, right? Even the top 10% of sellers end up getting laid off. This is just the reality of it. This is what's happening. I hate that it's happening, but it is. And this organization is being run by a PE. So you can connect the dots there. At some point, it's no longer going to be tolerated. The PE is going to want their money out, and they're going to see all these things going down, the revenue numbers going down, quota attainment going down, and the number of sellers is not going to stay the same in that organization. It is just inevitable. So this is what happens when we don't make those adjustments. And in the age of AI, we're seeing this happen more and more rapidly. So what is the solution? Let's just go back. Give me 1 second. All right, gonna go back. Okay, so we talked about the Q4, we talked about the transactionals, we talked about if you're a good seller, you're still at risk, right? Being good is no longer enough. It just isn't. We have to do different things. So here's an action item. Here's what I want you to do when we get off here. Look at your last 5 deals and ask yourself, did I actually challenge the buyer on some of the things, some of the assumptions, some of the numbers, some of the environmental problem environment questions, or did I just support their thinking? And here's the red flag for you. Here is the benchmark for you. If you just supported their thinking, you just went along with it, you're replaceable, or your skill set is replaceable. If you challenged it, then your sales leader can defend having you on the team. This is what it comes down to, guys. Nobody is going to tell you this stuff. Nobody's going to sit you down or sit the team down and say, hey, guys, I need everyone to be better thinkers, better strategists. I need you to be able to connect with your buyer, to lead the buyer, to help them make better decisions and help them really impact their business. Nobody is going to tell you that. They're just not. But I want you to know that this is the environment that we're in with AI, and it is moving very, very fast. Okay. So look at your last 5 deals, ask yourself these questions, and then determine where you are. Okay. What can AI not do? Okay. So here's the nitty gritty. Diagnose why deals are stalled. It can infer, but you, as the seller and as the selling organization, you have the full picture, right? So things like how the buyer responded to a question, their behavior on the call, these kinds of things. AI cannot, as of right now, diagnose why deals stall. You do that better. Surface uncomfortable truths. So challenging the buyer, challenging their thinking, challenging what they're saying, asking for proof, asking for confirmation, right? These things. You have the edge in this. Navigating political risk. If you're in the enterprise sales, hell, even if you're not, right? Even mid-market sales is having 3 to 4 decision makers, like multiple decision makers, right? You are the edge there. Reframing the problems and creating understanding without pressure. AI can't do any of this. You have the advantage. This is your competitive advantage, for I want you guys to start using it. Okay. AI can answer questions for sure. Like you can pop questions, it'll answer. Elite sellers, top 5 to 10%, will change the question. Here's an example. Instead of asking, what is your timeline? I hope you guys are not using BANT, by the way. I hope you're not. But anyway, I digress. Instead of asking, what's your timeline? Top 5% sellers are going to flip the question and figure out and uncover why there isn't one. Why isn't there a timeline? Why isn't there urgency? What levers can I pull? What levers do I need to pull in order to get that information or in order to have a decision happen in this regard? Okay. Again, this is your advantage as a seller. Here's an action that you can take right now. Like many of you are in several conversations, you can take this action right now, like review your call notes, review the AI transcript and the recording and all this. And I have something to say about that, but I'll save that till later. You're going to replace information questions with questions that require interpretation, human interpretation. What happens internally if this doesn't change, right? These are questions that you need to pull the answers out of your buyer. Who feels the pain most if it fails, if the implementation fails, if their proposal fails, right? Because that's a very real possibility with multiple decision makers. The bottom line is we don't need more questions, which is what AI is going to give us. We need better ones. We need better questions. We need better answers. And we need to make it our business to get that from our buyer when we're in those conversations. Okay, so here is the real skill gap. It's judgment and thinking and strategizing and leading. Those are the real skills, and that is your competitive advantage. This is what you bring to the table that AI cannot. Know what not to pursue. So there's a bunch of bad deals in you guys' pipeline right now, and you need to apply your thinking and judgment to figure out, do I pursue this or not? Disqualify confidently, not as quickly, but definitely you'll have confidence when you apply thinking and judgment to your deals. You can push back without losing trust. when you not just build rapport, but you understand what the buyer has at stake, right, internally for themselves and for their organization. And you can read weak buying signals early. So how many times, let me just stop this. How many times have we thought that we had good rapport with our champion, or that we were even speaking to a champion from the get-go, and then the deal just stalled, it petered out, and it was just crickets? Or one of those deals where you just push, 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 push. And it's because we didn't interpret what we were getting from our buyer. We didn't interpret the body language. We didn't interpret the silence or something. And that's something only humans can do. Now, I'm going to give you a tip with regards to using AI in order to move your deals forward and understanding what's going on. Now, when we're talking about using AI tools with the call recordings and with the transcripts, that's all well and fine. That's great. We can look at it, but how many of us actually watch the full recording after it's done? Like nobody. And I really hope that none of you are sending the recording to your buyer, because they're not going to watch it either. That's just a tip. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to use AI for a couple of the following. Number one, to interpret buyer behavior. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the transcript of your call, you're going to put it in a document or what have you, and upload it to AI, and you're going to ask it, I want you to identify each person on the call, and I want you to also identify and interpret their behavior on the call. Okay? And that's way different from just watching a talk track or seeing who talked the most, blah, 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 right? This is really using AI in an advanced way to understand the dynamics of what's really going on in the call and what your buyer is feeling and what they might be dealing with internally in their organization, i.e., any politics or possible roadblocks. So you're throwing it into AI, you're asking it to interpret that, and then you're acting upon that information. And then you, as the human seller, are putting two and two together, and you're going back into the second conversation, discovery call, whatever it is, with more information. And then you can either confirm, deny, or validate what you have interpreted from what AI gave you. So you are using AI to your advantage to not only to make your thinking better, but to up-level your skill set and really create more of a connection with your buyer, because then they know, okay, hey, this person is really thinking about our business and what I personally have going on and what I have to deal with and who I have to sell to and all these other dynamics, right? So it's not just the one buyer that we're talking to. There's several people, there's lots of dynamics, and AI can assist with giving you insight into that. But you have to be the interpreter, right? You have to put it in, and then you have to be the interpreter as to what it gives you, because you have the entire context, right? And you're going to go in and do some back and forth, and you're going to figure out what's going on. The second way you can do that, so my organization, we use an AI role play tool, right? So we use it, we role play in private, and we watch the recordings and so forth. One of the things that we use it for is to up-level or make better our presentation skills, right? So one of the things when I'm working with clients, their presentation is not very good, right? So they use a lot of filler words, they're talking in circles, and they just don't get to the point fast enough, and that turns off C-suite level buyers. It just does, rightly or wrongly. So one of the things that we use the tool for is we use it to identify, are we getting to the point? Are we using weak words? Are we using filler words, things of this nature? So it's not just looking at the talk track, looking at the AI summary and figuring out who talked the most. Like, who cares? What's the content of what you're talking about? Could you have condensed it down? Could you have gotten to the point faster? So these are some of the ways that we as sellers and selling organizations can use AI to make our presentation skills better. In and of itself is making us much more valuable. And it's not just for the organization that we work for today, because if heaven forbid, and something should happen, those skills will pay off in the future when you need to take them to another organization. And it won't matter what you sell, because these are tools that are being used in the market and being valued by the market. That is the point. Okay, so let me go back and then we're going to wrap up because we're already at 30 minutes, I think. Okay, let me go down. Okay. So we need to change questions. We need to replace information questions with interpretive questions. We need to up-level our thinking and judgment. Here's one key question that you can ask yourself after every call. Ask yourself this one question. If I were the buyer, so again, we're having empathy and we're switching places with our buyer. We're literally putting ourselves in their shoes. Like everybody says they do that, but less than 2% actually do this. Ask yourself, if I were the buyer, if I was Mr. or Ms. Buyer, would I feel clearer or would I just have more information? Would I just be more informed? Okay, which they can get that without you. They don't need you for that. So clarity equals progress, and information, which we have been trained on, which we have been trained to deliver, is commoditized. And that means no one needs us for information. Okay, that is just the hard truth. And these things that we've been taught, that have been reinforced, these skills of delivering information, gathering information, giving information, they're no longer valuable and the market no longer responds to these things. Okay, so what are the top 5 to 10% doing now? We're spending more time in discovery with better quality customers, and we're delivering more value. We're challenging our buyers earlier, so you do that the right way. No, you're not going to sound like an FBI interrogator. They are going to be happy to answer your questions as long as they know that you're going somewhere. So you're not shooting off into space, right? You're not asking unrelated questions. We're leading conversations with regards to change, and we're creating clarity and understanding and not pressure. And once your buyer knows that you're giving them some understanding or perspective, I hate POV. I don't know. I just don't like that because it's like we have our POV and we're imposing that. But anyways, we're creating understanding. And once your buyer knows that that's what's happening, it's a two-way exchange, they're not going to feel pressured to make a decision. And they're not going to think you're just there to sell something, which if you have commission breath and you're doing these things, you're doing these transactional things unintentionally, that's the message that you're sending. So this is what the top 5 to 10% of sellers are doing right now. And this is where everybody needs to get to. Frankly, top 10% is bare minimum. It's baseline. It used to be elite, but now it's kind of baseline. So if you're not in the top 10% of sellers, you need to get there, and then you need to make it your business to get to 5. And if you're at the top 5%, you can still up-level your thinking and your judgment skills and how you help synthesize information and connect the dots for your buyer. Okay, so that's what we're doing differently. What does this mean for sales leaders? And this is relevant for leaders as well as individual sellers, AEs. So I see a lot of coaching, like when I'm talking to clients and when I'm coaching sales managers, we're coaching things like activity. We're coaching things like, did you put this in the CRM? We're coaching, all these things that are no longer, frankly, valuable. And those are commoditized, right? AI can do all of those things. We need to start coaching thinking, judgment, and making deal decisions and making better decisions. We need to start coaching why, not just what. And while we're on the topic, as sales managers, our job is not to look at activity. It's not to coach activity, okay? Yes, you want to keep an eye on it because you want to understand the leading indicators and all these things. But our primary job is to make sure that our sellers' skills are where they need to be. And right now in AI age, our job is to help them think better so that they're more valuable to us as an organization, but also the buyers. And then you have repeat buyers and you don't have so much churn. That is our literal job as sales managers. We need to be better about coaching these things, right? And also when we have our onboarding plan, like leaders and VPs, our onboarding needs to be better. It needs to be more valuable. It needs to be a ramp time based on a calculation. I don't have time to go through that, but it needs to be a ramp time that makes sense for the role. And when it comes to helping our sellers onboard, we definitely need to have less of the product knowledge. That will come later, but help them with these things. Help them understand the ICP and how to connect and how to think and how to strategize and how to help the buyers connect the dots, right? So we want to coach the why and not just the what. This is what we need to do as sales leaders and sales managers and AEs. If you're starting a new role, which I have a couple of clients that are starting new roles now, I tell them to watch out for this. I ask them, look at the onboarding plan. Ask, what does the onboarding plan look like? And from that, you can kind of tell where the organization is with regards to the development and the support of the sellers. Like, this is highly telling. Okay, so the top 5 to 10% is no longer optional for you to get there. It's rewarding sellers who think like advisors, who challenge thinking, who will do some things that are not expected and that are not written down in the rule book and that your organization is not going to tell you. Sellers who are able to lead decisions and lead thinking. This is what the market is rewarding, and this is what it values, not all the transactional stuff. That is no longer valuable, and they're not paying you for that, right? And I saw a saying on online. I forgot who posted it. Organizations want a return on investment, or ROI. Everyone wants that. And as a seller, even as a sales manager, you are the I in ROI. And once that calculation no longer makes sense, then something's going to happen. You're no longer going to be employed, or you're going to have to prove your value, right? So you are the I and the ROI in this equation. And once those things no longer add up, you can guess what's going to happen. So don't let yourself get to that point. So what do you do now? Audit your deal thinking. Like, really be super honest with yourself. Like, I'm the worst at this for myself, right? If you need help with this, DM me. I'm the worst at this, right? I won't audit my thinking, but I need to be more diligent at it. I'm usually pretty good at it, but sometimes I slip. Identify where you're replaceable. And this requires, again, this is like a come to Jesus moment, right? It's like, where am I replaceable? What percentage of my day am I doing transactional type things? And that will give you the answer. And decide, you really have to make a decision, or the market is going to decide for you whether you want to stay good or you want to become elite and become irreplaceable. And again, this is not just for the organization that you're in now. This is for your future self. This is for your future career prospects, for your future income, for helping your family, and for keep growing and becoming irreplaceable for you and your family, right? This is your earning and income potential. So don't think that this just applies to one organization or the organization that you're in. It applies for you, for your future you, for your family, and for your lifestyle, right? You don't want to have income gaps, all this kind of stuff. You want to be able to maximize how valuable you are to the market at large, and not just to your employer, right? Like, make that decision. So if you want help with this, we're past time. I thank you and I honor you for being here. I'm really blessed that I'm able to have this platform and speak to everybody about this topic that I'm passionate about. Pressure test your deals. If you want to do that, DM me. If you want to strengthen your thinking, strategy, or judgment, this is the work that I do with AEs. It's not just tactics, because again, tactics can only take you so far now. It's helping you move in the top 5 to 10%, which again is no longer an option. So DM me here on LinkedIn if you want to help with any of these things. And again, I just want to bring back the football analogy. We're in the fourth quarter. We have 8 minutes left. The decisions that we make now are going to make the difference between us getting to the Super Bowl, staying where we are, or possibly being eliminated from the league altogether, right? You don't want to wake up one day and be obsolete. You want to maintain your value and keep raising your value. And the way we do it is to work with AI, realize and recognize that it is a fact. It is something that's happening now, but it doesn't mean that we're not valuable. It just means we have to adjust some of the things that we're doing, and we have to unlearn other things that have been hardwired into our brains by school, by our leaders, by our bosses, all these things. and we just have to do some different things, and we have to do some different thinking. That is your advantage as a human being over AI. So I thank you and honor you for being here. Again, DM me if you want help with any of this stuff. I do coach one-to-one, and I will see you next time, next Thursday, with another topic. Thank you so much. Have a great week.